Hey, Kelly, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me as a guest. I'm super excited. I've been listening to some past episodes, so I feel like I already know you, Rachel.
Oh, well, I am so excited to have you here. Why don't we start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into that.
Sure. So I'm Kelly Glover and I run the Talent Squad, which is a podcast guest booking agency, and we book podcast tours for entrepreneurs. So, since I'm in my 40s, I've been working since before podcasts were invented. So I didn't start out in that, that's for sure. But I've been in media and entertainment for 19 years. So I started out as an intern in Hollywood for Miramax and walking the red carpets, interviewing celebrities.
Fun.
Ended up getting into talent agency work. Found out I was pretty good at talking for a living. So ended up as a radio announcer doing syndicated radio shows in Australia, went to radio school, and from that ended up in podcasting. So I've been a podcast producer for the world's biggest women's network, six-figure branded podcast that won awards, which is amazing, millions of downloads. And now I book guests on podcasts. So that's a 20-year snapshot of what it took to get into something that wasn't invented when we started university, which is pretty amazing.
That is amazing. So why podcasting?
Because I loved radio, and you know why? I'll tell you why. It was an accident. I moved to Los Angeles. I'd been a syndicated radio announcer, and I couldn't get a job in radio with this accent or for whatever reason, or I completely misjudged the market, whatever it is. So I ended up writing show notes for an agency, and from that became a guest booker. And I resented it in the beginning, coming from commercial radio, as so many people do. But then I went, this is actually amazing. I love this. This is the best thing ever. I feel like I've discovered this thing that, people knew about it, but discovered how great it was while you're still thinking it's not great. And I kept running with it. And everyone in radio is going, oh, Kelly's working in podcasting, how the mighty have fallen. I was secretly loving it. And then people are now, as you would know, knocking on our door. So, so it was an accident. I got into it, something I didn't like, ended up loving it. And now it's the best thing ever. And I will tell strangers on the street what podcasts they should listen to or be nosy and ask them what they're listening to.
Ooh, I love that. So what are some of the benefits of having a podcast?
So there's benefits from having a podcast and there's benefits of being a podcast guest.
Yeah,
so
talk about both of those.
Ways, yeah. So I think and again, coming into this industry, my first podcast was in 2007. It was radio where they took out the ads and they meaning me, took out the ads and took out the songs. That was podcasting. And it's been changing. So I think it is more powerful and different than people think it can be. Mm-hmm. We all seem to think if I'm having a podcast, it's, true crime narrative or an interview. And if it's an interview, I need to have millions of people listening to it and I need to monetize it and make money. Mm-hmm. But that's not, and I get that. But there's so many more things that you can do with that podcast and use it in different ways. And it doesn't have to count as a CPM, which is cost per 1,000 listeners, which could be $25, $30. It doesn't have to be that. You can think of it in different ways for your business. So I would ask, if you're thinking of doing a podcast, who are you speaking to and what do you want them to do as a result? And sometimes if you think of it as a medium, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about mass volume of people discovering you listening. It can be a way to get your message to your own clients and then just send it, oh, actually, I've done a podcast on that, and send them a link to that. And there's 15, 20 minutes of a case study of a client study of anything, and they can listen to it and get that information. So it doesn't necessarily have to be entertainment audience listeners' money. So that's just one example.
Yeah. Cool. What are the benefits of being a guest?
Oh, so benefits of being a guest. So think of it like PR, which is earned media. So it's expert status, so authority, credibility, reputation, influence, strengthens your personal brand, communicates your expertise and amplifies. And we always hear this word amplify, but something important to know about that is it can only make louder what you have. So if your message isn't correct, it's just going to make that louder. If you're, make it bigger. The other thing is access to audience. So you're accessing niche, established and curated audiences that someone has worked really hard to put together. So instead of starting from scratch with your audience who you're already speaking to or no listeners, you're leveraging somebody else's audience, and it's very much one-to-one. So I think another benefit of podcasting is for introverts. If you are terrified of getting in front of an audience, and I'm not an introvert, but I'm still scared of getting up in front of 500 people looking in their eyes and forgetting what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So even though many people are listening to us right now, it's you and me, and I'm at home and you're at home.
I'm
and I can
hiding
do
in the
that.
closet.
And I'm in Los Angeles with my mobile setup. And it's one-to-one. And I know if something really goes wrong, even though we're live to tape, it's not going out across the airways live.
Yeah.
So it's pre-recorded. So that's another benefit as well. Even though most of them are lightly edited, if at all, there's the knowing that if this really goes tee up, it'll be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're not gonna
also,
die.
Also the time. If you've got a blog post, if you've got a video, if you've got other mediums, you're going to read a headline. You may get halfway through the blog post. You might get a minute through the video. But with podcasting, people listen to 86%, according to Edison Research, listen to all or most of the podcast. So if that's 30 minutes,
Wow.
because they view it as a book. Like, think about you listening as a podcast, Rachel. You say, I'm in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah.
You don't just listen to a minute and be like, moving on. Usually you listen to it in the entirety and you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Like a book, even if it sucks a little bit, you're reading to the end of the book.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much with podcasts. So you've got people you can get a lot of information across in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And you can hear by my voice if you like me or not. You can hear if I'm full of it or if you trust me. You can hear if I'm excited or if I couldn't care less. So hearing somebody's voice and inflection, we as humans get a lot of information from that you can't get from the written word. And I consider myself someone, I'm pretty good at writing in my own voice. Not everybody is, but you still don't get the same as listening to my voice.
True.
But you wouldn't know I'm Australian. You wouldn't know the whatever, high voice, low, whatever it is. If I talk fast, if I talk slow. So there's that. And then there's also, as a guest, the experience you get in saying your own message, repeating your own message, getting your message out there. So it's the experience of that. The more you say it, the more you realize what works and what doesn't, what people react to, what they don't react to, what topics they're taking, what they're not taking, if people are bored in their eyes, or you can tell when they've tuned out. So it helps you refine, define, and relay your message.
Yeah.
And then the other benefit is podcasts are active, not accidental. People don't stumble across a podcast when they're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or a blog post or whatever.
Yeah.
It's been referred. It's someone you're already listening to and someone's been on that show, or you're looking for, I want a podcast on how to grow succulents or whatever. I'm into succulents. So you're actively going out and looking for that. So I'm pretty obsessed with podcasts, as you can tell. So that's just, I'm sure there's a lot more benefits, but that's just a few. Otherwise, I'm going to take up the whole interview just saying how great podcasts are as a guest.
No, it's so true, though. It's so true. And like, we've had some of our best students come from me being a guest on other podcasts, because it just gives you that credibility of, people already know their audience. And so it's really easy to give, I get that credibility of being on their show. And so they already trust me because I'm a guest on someone else's podcast.
Yeah. So it's a warm
awesome.
intro, because the host is saying, like with me being a guest on your show is an easy example because we're in it. Oh, I've already vetted Kelly. Kelly's good with me. I think she's good enough for me to introduce to her. It's like when somebody introduces you someone to go on a date, as opposed to finding them on a website. They're already saying they're pretty good with me and I already approve of them. So it's a warm introduction.
Totally.
Yeah. And expedites the know, like, and trust factor. I've done it. I've heard someone, I'm like, oh, they know Facebook ads, they know Instagram ads, whatever the thing is. I'm like, they know what they're talking about. I can already tell.
Yeah.
I will just go straight to them because it saves me looking for someone else. And I've already it would be like doing a 30-minute call.
Yeah.
I've got the call with them and I already like them for whatever reason.
Something else I find, you kind of mentioned this, like people are actively searching it out. People who listen to podcasts, they're like intentional about their personal growth and their personal development, and they're like actively seeking that out, as opposed to like just finding someone randomly on Instagram with an ad or something like that.
Yeah, and I wish there was a better term. And if you've got one, let me know. And I don't, but podcasts are edutainment. It's education and entertainment. And I think that word is dorky and I dislike it, but
it's true.
It's absolutely accurate. It's so true. Because I look for it to learn something. And when I'm looking through a show that I've discovered, I'm looking at the headlines and I'm like, oh, I want to learn that. Oh, I need to know how to do that. Yes. So I want to, by the end of the episode, know how to do the thing, or at least have action steps to do the thing. But you've still got to engage me. You might have told me good info, but if you're boring and you sound like a snake oil salesman, I ain't going to follow up and go to your website. So it's important. And it's important to be yourself and not be BS.
Totally. What are some ways you can monetize a podcast?
As a guest or as a host?
Either.
So I think that, again, we were talking about the listen to the show, get the advertising and the sponsors. But I think the other way is if you're in a niche market and you've got a product to sell or service to sell, how much is that? And if you've got a course for $4.97, that's a popular price for a course, and you sell one course, well, that's pretty great monetization of someone coming through you and hearing about you. And that would need for 20,000. I'd have to check my maths. It's not my strong point, to be honest. That would equate to 20,000 people listening to that show.
Wow.
So you can have 20,000 listeners. If it's a CPM, if you do a CPM of $25, so that's 4,000 people have to listen to get $100.
Wow.
So, or one course, you know what I mean? So I think people are thinking, and we only know what we know. It's not people are silly. It's just, you don't know because it's new.
Yeah.
And it takes a while. And some people are a few years ahead. So they've kind of are like, oh, this is what we've figured out, guys. This is the information. So that's one way, is just by clients. And educating your clients before. Like I said, if you have a 12 episode series and you've got a podcast, if your own podcast, and you put it on your website, and then somebody listens to a few of those episodes, they're going to come to you with their credit card in hand because they've already maybe listened to between half an hour and 12 hours of you.
Yeah.
So it's actually cutting down on your sales process, sales call, education process. And they're more likely to be like, yep, just confirming, let's book this.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying this, I've spoken to a lot of people who've had this experience, and those are for services. There's a lot of different ways. And then I've had clients, because we book guests on podcast tours, so they go on other people's shows and they can track, yes, I went on this show and I got 3 sales, and that was a $3,000 course. So that was then a $9,000. They let's use the word made, but you know what I mean? Like they resulted in $3,000 course is $9,000 from one interview. Does not happen all the time, and that is a high ticket course, but it's possible.
Totally.
And people hire out agencies, PR agencies, for $2,000 plus a month. So it makes it worthwhile.
For sure. What is a podcast tour?
Oh, so a podcast tour is the new version of the book tour. We call it the speaker gig you can do without leaving the house.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. And it's just going on. Well, there's a few different models out there because it's new, and there's a number of agencies, and I always say, go with the person that you know, like, and trust the best. That's it. It's whatever suits you. For many people, I'm too high energized, and I'm a little bit, well, you're not supposed to say bossy anymore, are you?
You can be bossy.
Motivated. Motivated to get your stuff together, shall we say.
Yeah.
So there's agencies that will do 4 podcast bookings per month for a year, but we at the Talent Squad do like a podcast tour of 12 interviews. So, and it's just a pack of interviews that's a finite amount of interviews. So you're like, okay, well, this is how many I'm doing, and then I'll either continue or I'll just do it as that. Depends. A lot of people like batching. Yeah. So they may do a tour once a quarter. They may do it once a year if they've got a product launch, a book launch, something around it. So it's just a pack of podcast bookings is the way we look at it.
Got it.
But it is the speaker tour you can do without leaving the house.
I love that. Just don't make me put on pants. If I can stay in like my yoga pants and a hoodie, I'm happy.
Okay, Rachel, should I ask you to tilt the camera down?
Well, you're gonna see that I'm 9 months pregnant as well. I am wearing pants, but they're just like
Okay, I
workout
can
pants.
confirm wearing pants. I can confirm wearing pants. Did you say 9 months pregnant?
Yeah.
Are we having what is the baby date?
Uh,
And I know podcasts are evergreen, but let's get this on tape.
the baby's due March 15th, 2020. So we are batching a lot of episodes before the baby comes.
Batching the episodes, not the babies.
No, just the episodes.
I must say, I had a friend that batched babies because she had triplets the other day. And so having one baby instead of batching 3 is much smarter, according to her.
Totally.
Yes, that's just a side note of podcast life, pod life, hashtag podcast life. But with the podcast tour without leaving the house or the speaker gig, and this is where people get, it's funny, in podcasts, what we've discovered is people are like, I want to go on Tim Ferriss or nothing. If you're booking me, I want to be on the big show or I'm just going to do it myself. To me, that's like saying, I will marry Brad Pitt or no one.
Yeah, seriously.
You know? But would you travel to Minneapolis, just to pick out a city, if there was a room of 500 people in your niche? Yes, you probably would. If there were 500 of your ideal clients in the room, you would travel for that. Yeah. But doing a podcast means, and I travel quite a bit, I don't have to get the Uber to the airport. I don't have to get to the check-in. I don't have to check my bags in. I don't have to go through security. I don't have to wait at the gate. I don't have to get on the airplane. I know this is taking a while, but that's how long travel takes. Seriously. Then getting off the airplane, then getting the Uber, then getting to the hotel, then checking into the hotel. Haven't even had dinner, been to the conference, getting to the conference, doing the meet and greet, doing the dressing up, going and checking out the room, doing the practice of the room. Like, there's a lot of things, and speaking is great.
Not to mention being away, like if you have kids, being away from your family.
Away from your family, and then traveling, and then the time zone difference and all that stuff. Yeah. Traveling is great. Speaking at conferences is great. Can you do it every week? No, you can't. Should you do it? Yeah, if you can, you absolutely should. But you can do a higher volume of podcast guesting than you can do conferences, and you can reach that same amount of audience. So just because it's not Tim Ferriss with millions of listeners, if a podcast does have 500 listeners, that's pretty great. And unlike doing that conference where you're there from 2:00 on a Tuesday for a conference till 2:30 in that room, this podcast, you can listen to it 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. So the work is still being done after you've done the work. So that, yes, it might be 500 listeners, but in 2 years' time, it could be 5,000 cumulative. Yeah. So I think a lot of podcasting, and like I said, for myself, because I was wrong in the beginning, or I had not a great attitude in the beginning, it's really about changing your mindset. And it's not changing your mindset. It's about reframing. And when you think about it differently, you see the opportunities, and it's the promised land, I think. It's amazing.
For sure. Yeah. What are some tips to actually get booked on someone's podcast?
So I think I want to get booked on podcasts is about step 4. And to go all the way back to step 1 is, who am I talking to, and what do I want them to do as a result of of listening to me on the show? And then it's, what value do I have to bring them? What can I teach them? What do I have to say? If I talk on a show, it's not just about you. It's not, hi, I'm Kelly, I've got a book. I don't. Hi, I'm Kelly, I've got a book. I want to come on your show. I'm great. Here's my story. So what? Who cares? What are you doing for my audience? What are you teaching them? And what will they know to do by the end? So you've really got to think of that. And then it's, do you have your one sheet? Do you have your headshot? Do you have your bio? Do you have your media kit? Are you ready? And do you have your messaging straight? So, and you would know this, Rachel, because you get pitched a lot. If you don't even have the 8-word subject line that's going to catch the attention of the person you're pitching, it won't get opened. Mm-mm. Pitching podcasts is highly competitive now, much more than it used to be. So you even need to have that really tuned in before the email will get opened. Then you've got to have those opening lines to prove that you know the show, to prove you listen to the show, to prove you understand the audience. And I'm not talking, hi, I really loved episode 431 about dogs. That's not going to cut it. Like that, it used to, but it doesn't anymore. And then you've got to tailor your pitch to the host and really have looked at that back catalog Because if you had someone talking about dogs 2 episodes and I go in and pitch dogs, well, that's no good because you've already got that. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of sourcing, vetting, and pitching work to do before, you want to go on podcasts, but it's a lot of moving parts and busy work to get there. Can it be done? Yes. It's just effort that you have to put in. So I would say, you need all that done. Then you do the pitch and then it's the follow-up. It's not just the pitch. We find that to get pitched on the first email is a big win and it's amazing and you should crack a bottle of champagne for sure. But most of the time you have to do follow-ups.
How
So
many?
to think, it depends on the show. Are you pitching to an individual? Are you pitching to a producer? Are you pitching at summertime? Are you pitching while people are batching? It depends. The more you pitch, the more you know what's happening in the industry at the time. So it just depends. Like you said, you're batching because you're pregnant. Well, how would anyone know? Like if you listen to the show, if you follow you would know that. But that's not something we can know.
Right.
Oh, Rachel's got to get pregnant and then we need to like really get our pictures in because she's going to batch the shows. So every case is individual.
Got it. So you mentioned the subject line and the first few lines of the email. How do you craft a good subject line in that email, and what should the first few lines be to really grab someone's attention?
At the Talent Squad, we call it clickbait that actually delivers.
Yeah.
So think of, any Instagram headline, any Facebook headline. Would it be on the front of a newspaper? Kelly Glover pitch, ain't going to cut it. There's no way. So you need to have something in there that really captures the attention of, like it needs to, clickbait, like we use the term clickbait. How many times have you clicked an article that seems so interesting and you have to scroll back and to go back and you're like, oh, fine, I'll click it. And then it's disappointing. So you need oh, fine, I've got to open it, but it actually needs to pay off. So that's where, again, it's not like, hi, I want to come on your show. I'm awesome. So what, who cares? It needs to get it opened and then it needs to capture your attention because the subject line will get the email opened. The first 2 lines will get you to read on, but then you're still going to vet me. You're not going to make the decision from that. You're not even going to make the decision from the one sheet. So that's what people need to be prepared with as well, because you're going to go to my website, you're going to go to my Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, you're going to listen to me on a previous podcast, you're going to cross-check and verify. And if I don't have all my ducks in a row, I'm not going to get through. So it's like a little key to a door, and each door gets opened and then you finally get the treasure in the end. The treasure is the booking, but there's a lot of doors to get through to get to that booking.
Can you give an example of that, like the email subject line? So you said clickbait, but what would that look like?
So it could be,
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
No. I'm trying to, I've got I'm sure we all have this, a mental Rolodex of clients and previous things. So my brain's just now turned into a little spreadsheet rolling through current and previous clients and their headlines, what it would be. So, I'm just going to think of one that I did myself that I went viral for, right? So I had the headline before I even wrote the article. And it was, So I lost, let me convert it into this. I lost 130 pounds and couldn't get a date. So that's what people loved that headline. It went viral. So that could be one. So that would be if you were a dating expert or going on a dating show or a weight loss show or something like that.
That would be the email subject line you would send in a
you could even make it better than that.
Yeah.
If it was from broke to $100 million into the e-commerce entrepreneur, something like that. So, and then sometimes you can put in parentheses next to it pitch. So they know it's a little pitch and they know what it is at the end.
Yeah.
And then also always look at the host, because sometimes they want you to fill out a form because email boxes are getting clogged up now and they just want it separate.
Yeah.
Or it could be, so one would be the longest foot race nobody knows about. There's a 3,100 mile race in New York. So, or other ones that are good are how to.
Yeah.
So if people want to learn stuff, so like it would be, I don't know, how to double your Instagram in 2 days. Not a real headline, absolute fake headline, or stuff like that.
Got it. And then what would be the first couple sentences to grab someone's attention?
Or how to book yourself as a podcast guest, or 5 mistakes you're making that you don't know when pitching hosts. So it would be, hi host. And then it depends. Like I always try to personalize it when I do them myself. So I would say, oh, I saw 2 episodes ago that you lost 200 pounds. That's me. I lost 200 pounds. But
Wow.
you lost 200 pounds. And you also did a dating episode. I've got an interesting perspective that your clients or audience might be interested in with regards to losing weight and not getting a date, and you haven't covered that yet. Is that something you're interested in? Here's 3 talking points that it could go to. Let me know if you'd like me to be, a guest on your show. Here's my press kit link. My one sheet's attached. I mean, it would be much more eloquent. You'd work on it. Like this is really crafted stuff and it takes a long time.
Yeah.
So then you've said, okay, I know that you've covered weight loss. I know that you've covered dating, but you haven't covered weight loss and dating and not being able to get a date.
Yeah.
So it's a different angle on something you've already covered. And here's some examples of that. Plus I've actually lost 200 pounds. So you know what I mean? So it's all those things. So it's recognizing the audience. It's recognizing the previous episodes, and it's also recognizing the white space and showing that there's a gap in there and you're offering something different. So all of this is very throwing spaghetti at the wall, and it's very, I would say everything I've said is about a 6 out of 10, and I would really refine it and make it a lot better.
Yeah.
But they're examples of content that you could use, strategies you could use, and craft it in much better words than I've used. Like everything I've said,
but the whole concept. So like if someone were to pitch on our show, like they would need to let us know, one, they listen to the podcast, actually, and it's not just completely random and you're just pitching everyone and everyone. It's like a generic copy and pasted form. And I love that you said like find what they haven't done before and how you could give them a different angle, because we get so many pitches on the same thing and we're like, we just covered that, like we're not going to do it again for a while.
Yeah, but what I've just said also is recognizing that you understand yes, but it's like, I know you've done that, and I can see that you've done that, and I can see that you've done that as well. And I'm pitching something along the lines, but it's a bit different.
Yeah.
So therefore you're saying, I get the show, I get the audience, and I can see that.
Yep.
So, and then they're like, that's better than saying, hey, I listened to episode 47, loved it. So what, who cares?
Totally.
Prove it.
Yeah. And if you could show me like your perspective and kind of like what the angle of that episode is going to be and the specific talking points, I love that, because it would mean less work for me and our team to actually put together like the questions. Well,
it's giving an example of what it could be, but it's not prescriptive.
Yeah.
Because any host would be like, oh, that's great, but I'd actually like to go this way. So it's not telling you this is what I'm talking about, this is all I'm talking about, this is what you should do. It's like, this is what we could do. Yeah. And then if the host comes back saying, oh, actually, that's great, I'd like to speak about this, you're like, great. So you give them, and they've got your press kit and your online press kit and your Media One sheet. It's just an example of what you can speak about.
For sure. Okay. So what's the press kit Media One sheet?
So the one sheet is, it would have your name at the top and a short bio, and then also sample talking points, and then sometimes sample questions with media stuff. So it's, I just make them on Canva for my clients, and you can make your own on Canva, but it should look like it's ripped straight from your website and be part of your branding. Mm-hmm. So, and some people like them, some people don't. Usually they're an attachment with a PDF. And then the other one that's one page. So it's a capsule shot of one thing. Like I said, it's not going to get you booked. It's going to get I'm going to start clicking around and looking further. It's a key to the door. And the press kit that's where you'd have, instead of the short bio, well, you would have the short bio, but it would be a short bio, a show intro, a long bio, because it's a website, right? A web page. So you've got multiples. Then it would be not just one photo of you. It could be 6, 10 photos of you on a white background, on a 3/4 background. So the host can go in and cherry pick. It's a resource for the host to get all the information they want in one spot, so they don't have to go on a wild goose chase.
Yep.
And then talking points. So instead of having maybe 5 on the one sheet, it might have 20. So it could have, here's topic A and here's 5 points under that. Here's topic B and 5 points under that. And then I'd also put on their previous podcast interviews. So if you've done 5 interviews, put them there, and the host just has to go play, listen, play, listen. So that's you're not doing the cross-check and verify for them, but you're providing a place where everything lives in one spot so they can do it in 10% of the time and making it easier to make them decision. And you're also showing, I know what I'm doing. I'm prepared and I'm making it easy for you. And if you work with me and pick me, this is what the experience is going to be like because I've got my stuff together.
Yeah.
It can have example articles in there as well. And so, for example, in my press kit, I've also got some facts and stats about podcasting. So I'm helping the host by going, here's some stuff about podcasting so you don't have to do that work, by Edison Research, who's already done that work. And then you can just click through, and that also shows why it's important or interesting to speak about podcasting in your topic.
Yeah.
And then I might have a timeline. So like if I was doing the weight loss thing, I'd be like, okay, well, I had vertical gastric sleeve in 2017. I lost this weight. This went viral. I did this, that happened. So then they can get in 10 seconds, 3 years, 20 years of she's done all the things in a very quick time.
Yep.
I'm obsessed with the online press kit. Obsessed.
I like it.
Me
Very
too.
Cool idea.
It's so good. Yeah, you could put a little YouTube. It's whatever you want it to be. Whatever works. If you're a speaker, guess what? It should have a video of you on stage doing your TEDx talk speaking. Then I don't have to go searching, press play.
Yeah.
Because we've all got multiple socials. We have our personal, we'll have our business. Sometimes people have 10, 15 socials.
Yeah.
Well, instead of you looking for it, Rachel, if you could just go click, 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 I've at least saved you 15, 20 minutes of your day.
Yeah. I like it. Where do you find relevant podcasts to pitch on?
So the first stop would be, there's a lot of ways to do it. So Google, iTunes, Listen Notes, Chartable, you can find them, but often it could be top 10 wellness podcasts or whatever your area is in. So you can search that way. And then once you get in the rabbit hole, you're like, oh, there's Rachel. I really like her. She's like me. We speak about the same things. What other shows has she been on? And then I'll go down and look at shows you've been on, or I'll find your show and then I'll look at the guests on your show and then I'll look at where have those guests been. Because if someone is similar to you or even counter to you, you can find out all the shows that they've been on. And if you like them, then they've been on quality shows if you consider yourself a comp to them. But you still have to offer something different. And the thing is, if they've been on all those shows and you've got the same thing you're talking about, you can't go and offer the same thing. But that's just an example.
Got it. How do you master the art of the interview? So like you did the work, you pitched, you got on. How do you make sure you actually do a really good job on that interview?
So this comes with practice. And that's again why don't go for Tim Ferriss on the first try. If you know Tim Ferriss and he's your next door neighbor and he says yes, get on that show immediately. But if you're not, then like I said, it's helping refine and define your message. I'd rather go on 100 shows and be Tim Ferriss be my number 100 and nail it than him be my first and fumbling around. The audio doesn't work. I mess up my words. Suddenly I can't say my name. I can't remember how to do a headline. You know what I mean? So it's, especially with podcasting, you can have a note next to you and no one will ever know. Yeah. You can have it on the screen. No one will ever know. So it's it's integrating your keywords. It's answering the question. It's giving it's giving everything away. It's giving all the value away. Yeah. And it's being proactive in your answers. Like, if you're just going to give a one-word answer, don't bother. You have to be into it. You know, no one would. Like, who's going on a podcast that doesn't want to answer the question?
Yeah.
But and staying on message, and yeah, so it's all those things. But it's also how you articulate, how long your answers go for, integrating the host into your answers, and then also sometimes you have to take control if the host is not the best or isn't asking the right questions. But you can't take over the interview, but sometimes you have to ask and answer your own questions. And that's a skill unto itself.
Yeah.
Like if you've written a book and they don't ask you about the book or they haven't read the book, then you need to integrate that in there, but while not being a sleazy, gross salesman that nobody likes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, on page 27 in my book, line 2, you have to buy it and able to get the information. No. But you can say, well, in my book, I speak about this, blah, blah, and just even maybe twice get it in there. Not every sentence, but it's being proactive and like chances are most hosts probably have not read your 400-page book or 200-page book in full. So yeah, it's just considering a bunch of things, and it's getting better. The more you do, the better you'll get. And every interview you'll kick yourself thinking, I did 20 things wrong and I could have been better. And then you'll do something different the next time.
Totally. I know
It's
my
great.
first ones were not very good. And I was like, all right, we'll just get better as we go. It's fine.
Yeah, you do. And then you'll nail something and someone will ask you a question like, well, wasn't prepared for that, but I will be next time.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of your favorite podcasts?
I'm obsessed with How I Built This by Guy Raz.
Ooh.
It's about entrepreneur stories, but from famous companies we all know. And you find out, they didn't just become, Airbnb on a Tuesday and then by Wednesday they've this giant company. And you find, they were Airbnb like mattresses, like air mattresses it's amazing. So there's lots of those stories. I just find them inspirational. That's one of my favorite ones.
I've seen it like whenever I'm searching the podcast app, but I haven't actually listened to it. So now I'm going to.
Yeah. And then I love Startup. That's also a good one. The original series of Startup. It's a bit meta because it's a podcast about starting a podcast company, and that got sold to Spotify, which, obviously that's Gimlet Media. That's a pretty good. I like all the entrepreneur interview stuff. I'm nosy.
Yeah. Very cool. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's there's a lot of people talking about influence, but influence is only if someone actually does something as a result of you.
Yep.
So I think if someone takes action from something that I've said, or even in their mindset, like I was saying, if they reframed something and it changes what they do or their life, then I'm super happy with that. And I think we all do it. And here's the thing. We all have impacted people's lives, and people have changed their life because of us, and we will never meet them and never know. Yeah. And that's what podcasting is. And life as well, but that's amazing. So to me, that's an impact.
I like it. Where can we connect with you?
TheTalentSquad.com.
TheTalentSquad.com. Amazing. And any last words of wisdom?
Wisdom, no. Practical advice.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about doing it, do it. Now, there's never been a better time to do a podcast interview or start your own podcast than now. And at the Talent Squad, we say practice in private before you go public. So if you are a little bit scared, on all our computers, there's all these little, like I'm looking at my icons right now, and I don't even know what one of them's called, but you can just record yourself. Yeah. So if you're worried or you want to do it, but you're a bit afraid, just record yourself, even for 3 minutes a day, just talking to yourself. And you will get better at speaking. And then soon enough, you'll realize I can do this, and then start wherever you want to start.
Cool. Well, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm looking forward to the celebrity baby name announcement.
I love it.